It's a fun, musical-oriented business that we're really excited to bring to you. The motors as a replacement product was the first product. So we looked at other Hammond interface products called the Leslie breakout box. And what breakout box means is just a way to connect a bunch of different things into a system. So typical Hammond interfaces right now, this is only built for 122, this is only wired for 147. Call somebody to rewire it if you don't like it. We thought, a breakout box means, at least in the technology industry for communication products that we're used to, it means the ability to hook into signals and to look at what's going on inside this thing, and then maybe I can change it over, adapt it, or make it work. The second product we came out with, and this was from talking to some service techs, was the amp eliminator. And that's kind of a funny misnomer for a product. It didn't really eliminate an amp because it doesn't have any electronics inside it. It is a connector interface that makes it very easy to substitute a guitar amp or an amplifier head in the event that your Leslie amplifier were to break on a job during the middle of a show or traveling. And all it does is replicate the exact same connectors, the speaker connector, the 6-pin connector. So the low voltage 26-1 box basically replaces everything in there with a small box. Again, it's a replacement product, but safer. If you look at the evolution, the Leslie breakout box, the LBB, originally started out as just a connector box that did the speed controls for the Leslie. Then we did add the preamp to it. Fusion, again, combines what we see as the ability to connect disparate or not intended to be connected devices to each other. We came up with this box called the VMC, and it stands for Vintage Motor Controller, and it gives you the ability to fast, slow, or stop the Leslie motors on any Leslie. You walk up to it, install the box, plug the motors in. MIDI part is so cool because anytime the organist is playing, he's using the half-moon switch or a foot switch to control the speed of the Leslie. Those switch movements all become MIDI events for our box, and then we send them to a MIDI sequencer, or a DAW it's called, that will store them along with the music that's being recorded. All right, what that does now is show you every time he moved a switch, it'll say he went to fast, he went to slow, he went to stop, he went to fast, he went to slow. And that's never been captured before or used for anything useful. All right, so imagine the organ player doesn't come back from lunch and you want to now mix the final track. You've got the Leslie MIDI track for the speed switches, and you've got the organ, what's called a dry track, that has just organ audio. You might also have a Leslie wet track, but we're not talking about using that right now. And so what our box gives you the ability to do is play back the MIDI track to our box, and then it will make that Leslie spin fast and slow as if somebody were hitting the switch live, but there's nobody there. The switch doesn't move. Unfortunately, I wish it would. I'd love to get one that would respond like that, and you can see it real time. But basically, the Leslie will speed up, slow down, and say the producer says, "Man, you should hit that Leslie about a half a second sooner." That would just have made that song. Picture in memory of Elizabeth Reed, if Greg Allman had missed that final, swell on the Leslie. Its time either hasn't come yet or it will come, but it's going to come about through the openness, and sort of like Linux did to Windows, or Linux did to computing in a way. If you can make these Leslie's speed not a secret, not something you got to call a tech for, if you can open up your box and throw a switch and change it from this mode to that mode, then that's sort of like open software in a way. So that's sort of how we see the MIDI thing, and we're looking at MIDI being used for other things, like besides switching Leslie's, it could switch modes. Like again, in a recording studio, you could go from reamping to amping, and just let it all be controlled from the console, not have to move cables and things like that. So what does Sidecar do? Sidecar addresses the issues of the conventional 6-pin cable. It could be viewed as a replacement for them, but really it's more of a safety enhancement and a convenience enhancement, and probably an economical enhancement. If you've had problems with tube amps in the past, or you just need to have a spare to carry in the event of a failure on yours, that can be expensive and prohibitive sometimes. So we've been requested and had the idea, why don't we work with these folks that are interested in this, and we've developed a replacement for the Leslie amplifier line. The first out will be 122, second will be 147, and the third will be 11-pin. Because of the radicalness, somebody suggested the name Rebellion, and we really like that name. So the Rebellion line of amplifiers will basically replace the Leslie tube amps now, the 122, 147, and then the 11-pin versions of the amplifier. The amplifiers offer a distinct advantage in that they do not use tubes as opposed to the do use tubes. If I was in a recording studio, I'd insist on a Leslie 122 amplifier retubed and pristine condition. But if I'm on the road, I might not want to worry about that. And with the price of these, we're hoping you could have two of them, one as a spare should you need it or whatever. So the amps will be 100% compatible, plug and play. They'll do everything the old ones do, and we'll offer a 50-watt version, which replaces the 46-watt version Leslie amplifier now. And then we also have a 100-watt version for people that want to like it loud, want to keep up with the guitar players in their group, and have generally improved speakers in their Leslies. The idea was to get opinions on the products and not just come out with a product that I thought was good. And I think that's part of been the success of Sealevel Systems in the past, was listening to your partners and listening to where the trends and the markets and technology are going. Well, BookerLAB was originally me, and I messed around for several years in my garage, not here at Sealevel, with building little motor designs. And I used to call Susan out in the middle of the night sometimes, say, hey, look at this, it's actually working. And I've got have at least one Leslie in my garage right now. I usually have two or three. The idea, again, was born of, that something could be done here. This is fun stuff. It could lead to other things also. I realize, and it's probably a further question, that the market isn't huge for these things, although we are seeing a big resurgence, and we're excited about it. We've had a great time working with celebrity artists. I don't know if we're at liberty to name all of them, but it's been just a fun venture. As far as the who at BookerLAB, I've got the support of the entire Sealevel company, which has been kind of neat. They like hearing organ music in the middle of the afternoon. As far as manufacturing goes, Sealevel's got world-class surface mount assembly manufacturing. We've got an entire solder section that does really good through-hole work, hand-wired assemblies. So we can advertise and say that this stuff is hand-wired in South Carolina. Trying to just keep the vintage coolness alive and make it easier for folks to get into the business. Where do you buy BookerLAB products? We're expanding our avenues right now. We have a couple guys we've worked with that are considered resellers and trusted friends. Greg Black with Black Hammond in Macon is a great guy. Juke Fox out of Colorado. Rocky Mountain Keyboards is a great guy. They've both promoted our products to friends as a result of that, and to celebrities and to artists. We consider them trusted friends, resellers, but we haven't really established a formal reseller network yet, but we're working on that. That's one of James's projects. Another one is having a couple retail outlets. We are eligible to sell on Amazon, eBay, and Reverb, and right now the products are just on Reverb. We're refining our message. We're getting feedback from users. We're refining really how we want to distribute these things. We want to be the go-to guys, and we've been working with touring companies, which has been a really good outlet as well. We're finding out that there's a real demand for ruggedized casing, ruggedized connectors. There's Leslie connectors you can do. There's Leslie adapters for cabling you can do now, so that you're out in the field and you've got these heavy-duty touring cables and you have a problem, you might be able to get a replacement, or call us and get a replacement cable adapter or something. So we're looking at basically all angles of the industry and trying to figure out how we can make it easier on people. Well, this has been a really, really exciting adventure. Like I said, our goal was to reach out to who I saw as industry experts and technicians and guys that were supporting artists on the road and in the studio with equipment at first. Well, I guess what I didn't realize too that would lead us to those artists. We were very excited early on. In fact, prior to NAMM, I got a text one day from Joey DeFrancisco, and Joey's a good friend of many. He's been playing forever. He comes from a family of musicians as well. And Joey wanted this preamp, and he wanted it to do this, and he'd heard about it, and he was just real excited. And that led to like a afternoon conversation on text with Joey about what Leslie should do and should be, and I was really honored to have had his presence at the time. We then started approaching other musicians, just hearsay or through Facebook. At the NAMM show, we met a whole bunch more. At the last NAMM show, we met several. I could name a few of them that come to mind. Recently at this NAMM, Michael Gerardo with the Revivalists came and hung out, and that was especially cool because Michael played in Greenville a few years ago for my son's birthday. So Michael also introduced us to his backline company for touring equipment. They're called True South out of New Orleans, and we're excited about the opportunity of working with them. And then who comes to mind when you think of a Hammond B3? Booker T. Jones, Booker T. and the MGs. So we had a wonderful conversation with Olivia and Teddy Jones. Teddy plays guitar with Booker, and Olivia does all of his I've heard that she goes out and checks out the equipment before Booker even touches it, and makes sure it's right for the rental equipment. So it's an honor to be working with all these guys.